You're listening to CAAT Tales, the podcast of SLC Faculty Local 417, your union connection. Each episode, we bring you real stories from our members, practical tips on your rights, and the kind of information that helps us all move forward.
Welcome back to CAAT Tales, the podcast. I'm your host, Julie White. In today's show, we're going to talk about 3 numbers that are essential to every full-time faculty member: 44, 18, and 7. We're going to check in with another fun round of Is It a Gripe or a Grievance? But first, in this episode of Getting to Know Your LEC, we're sitting down with Lead Steward Gillian Axten. From the competitive Sudoku of scheduling arbitrations to fighting for the collective good, Gillian takes us behind the scenes of what it really means to advocate for faculty. Welcome to the podcast, Gillian. So we're going to start with the rapid fire. Are you ready for this?
I guess so.
All right. These are all random questions. So, all right. The first one, coffee, tea, or I run purely on chaos?
Oh, coffee. Copious amounts. Giant amounts. More than anybody could possibly imagine.
Can you do it intravenously?
Oh, if I could, I would. Black, strong, and at least 1.5 liters a day.
Wow. Okay. That explains a lot. What's the weirdest thing you've Googled during work hours?
Oh, well, I teach human sexuality, so let's just leave it at that. And it is work-related, so yes.
What were you afraid of as a child?
Getting lost.
Okay.
Like, number one fear. Yep.
If you could swap jobs with somebody at SLC for a week, who would it be and why?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I think I would want to try to be a lab tech. I would be terrible at it, but I think it'd be really interesting.
Okay. Who do you text the most?
Like, in general, my partner, but specifically from work, probably Tabitha, maybe Christina. Depends on the day.
All right. Do you kill bugs inside or do you release them outside?
No, sorry, death and destruction. I kill them inside. I live in the country.
All right. Sweet or savory snacks?
Savory.
The most questionable food combination you enjoy?
That would be peanut butter and summer sausage sandwiches.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's incredibly good, but people get freaked out by it.
All right. Chased with coffee.
Yes,
All
absolutely.
right. Your favorite season of the year?
Winter.
One word your friends would use to describe you?
Intense,
All right.
I would think would be the word.
Excellent. Okay. Well, you survived the rapid fire and you did it in rapid time too. So well done. You are somebody who just kind of focused to the point and let's get her done, right?
Yes. There's no. I'm not very good at. I have a story about my introduction to Copilot, and I decided I would have Copilot edit my emails this summer, and I had people like wondering if they were being scammed or concerned about my mental health.
Because Copilot was kind of adding that.
Nice, like, hi, Christina, how are you today? And nobody believed it was me. Yeah, I'm not known for my niceties.
Oh, you are though. You are. It comes across differently.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you got into teaching and how long ago that was?
Good God. When did I get into teaching? Probably before most people were alive. I was trying to extricate myself from teaching by being the counselor at a bunch of different high schools. But as staffing is always short, I would get sucked into, can you just substitute here? Can you just substitute there? So I'm not a teacher like a high school teacher. I'm a guidance counselor counseling psychologist, psychotherapist, whatever you want to call me. In Quebec, the categories are very different. And so I got sucked into doing little bits of that. And then in the early 90s, there was a real downside of specifically counseling in high schools and jobs in high schools and even in cegeps and universities. And so a colleague of mine, we were job sharing just to try to keep both of us employed. And she had a teaching gig at Concordia and had to go off on sick leave. And so I took her sick leave, like her half of the course. And then I just sort of stayed there because it was there. It was never an intentional, this is going to be my career. That's not the way I got into teaching. I was a counselor who taught. And that's how I still think of myself as that, even though I'm full-time academic now. I'm still the counselor who teaches.
Okay. And how did you get into St. Lawrence College?
Oh, well, that's a different, completely different. So my mom moved to Cornwall after she did her undergrad because it was, we were from Montreal, and it was an easier place for her to get work because her French was limited. And she saw a posting for a job at St. Lawrence, I don't know, maybe 10 years after she had moved to Cornwall. And she urged, encouraged, pushed me to apply for the job in Cornwall with the rationale that she was getting older and at some point she was going to need me around to help her. 25 years later, here I am. My mother is now needing my help in Cornwall and I work here. So it's all my mom's fault.
It always comes back to the moms, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. And over your time, what are some of the more meaningful courses that you've taught?
I love teaching mental health and addiction to the paramedics, specifically focusing on their own mental health and building resiliency. That to me is really meaningful and important, is to try to help with their own resilience in a field that is going to, let's be real, probably destroy their mental health and or their backs or both. And so trying to give them as much power to survive a career that's more than 8 years is really where I really enjoyed that. I also like teaching the nurses, specifically the skills they need to deal with the huge amount of mental health issues that they have to deal with.
So again, still the counselor.
Yep.
You see that thread right through. Okay. And what is it that you love most about teaching and working with students?
I love the aha moment. The moment when they go, oh, that's what it means. Or, oh, like that to me that's nearly addictive.
Yeah.
Is to have that moment in students. I love that. Love that.
And sometimes it doesn't happen in the classroom. Sometimes it's years later when you run into them at the grocery store and they tell you about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I ran into a student who I taught in 2006, and he remembered the course.
That's fantastic. Can you share a memorable classroom moment, perhaps, that you've had?
I've had a lot of really fun classroom moments when I've been able to teach an entire cohort all of their, like, because I'm the social science person on campus, when we had a really big general arts and science program that dovetailed with SUNY Potsdam and Bishops, they would take 4 or 6 social science courses. And so I had a cohort of like 15 who would take intro to psych and then developmental and then abnormal, intro to sociology, and so we could connect through the themes of all of that into life and, all of that stuff. So that to me is the significant moment.
That's cool. Outside of teaching, what passions or interests do you have that keep you energized?
So I am, well, right now I'm a grandma, I'm a bubby. And so that's my, my number one focus. I am a huge, giant cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, Bananas CFL fan. And so I am an Alouettes fan, so I watch every football game and I do all the football stuff. I refed up until last year when I hurt my back. I was reffing high school football. I coach semi-professional women's football. So football is like a theme of everything. I love football.
I love that. In terms of how you got into that, like we couldn't
So
play back in the day.
Oh yeah, way back in the day when I was a little kid. My mom's a huge football fan, and I played inner city kid, Montreal. It was the sport du jour, and so I played football. Not terribly well, and I was not a very tall girl, and it was not a girls' sport. There was no girls' teams, and so I played with all the guys and got myself beat up. But I love the concept and the strategy of it.
Yeah, it's that tactical piece, and
Yeah.
you can see that tactical thread kind of through your career and kind
Yeah.
of what you're doing with the union. So probably this is a pretty decent segue into let's talk about what you're doing kind of as the lead steward for Local 417.
I like a lot of the strategy pieces. Makes sense. I also like supporting the stewards in their problem solving, in their working with members. I also, oddly enough, enjoy the grievance process. Not that it's a positive thing, but I like being involved and supporting members in hopefully acquiring a decent outcome. So those are the things I do mostly. I deal a lot with sort of the back end, definitely less known and less sexy kind of stuff in grievances, policy grievances and union grievances, and looking at the collective as a whole and how we can support everybody, like all faculty from now part-timers all the way up to full-timers in their role working. So that's the kind of thing I like. I'm a big picture thinker. I don't hate details, but I need the big picture before I can get bogged down with details. And details, to be honest, sometimes they just like escape. So I have to like really drill down and focus when I'm trying to do that kind of detailed work. But I am much more a strategic planner and the large picture thinker. And the lead steward and the president, we do a lot more of that.
Okay. And I know I attended the OPSU SAFPO convention last year virtually, and I saw you on that stage so many times, leading conversations, both as kind of Region 4 as well as for the CAAT A faculty. Can you talk a little bit about what you do at that provincial level?
Sure. So currently, I am the Region 4 representative for the Constitution Committee. So that's the Constitution that guides all OPSU. So a lot of members always think of just OPSU as CAAT members, support and faculty, but it's, everybody from LCBO. We just got the coroners of Ontario, who knew, unionized, and sort of everything in between, like huge amount. So we have this Constitution, and we rewrite and look at it and make changes and modify as the union grows and changes. And so I'm the Region 4, so there's 7 of us. And when there's need for changes, so every year we meet at convention and we modify the Constitution. So again, big picture, Constitution that guides everything that we do, down to where do we put the comma so this makes sense to represent that big picture. So that's my current role on that. I am the joint chair of so there's 2 of us, the co-chair of the Joint Grievance Scheduling Committee. So there's myself and a support staff member. Every grievance that goes to arbitration is scheduled by us with the arbitrators. So it is an incredibly complicated process. I've called it Sudoku, competitive Sudoku on speed.
Is that for all of the union or is that for CAAT
That's
A?
just for CAAT A and S. And so we schedule all the grievances every month. And so I have the privilege of seeing all grievances that come through the system. And then I try to find a way to match up as best I can, because it is a competitive process, the best grievance with the best arbitrator. Some wins, some losses, so on and so forth. But that's where I play in that field. I'm also a disabled member. And so I am on the disabled caucus, so the DRC, Disability Caucus, and I represent Region 4 disabled workers within OPSU. And it's not something I talk a lot about, but I am a tech user. I use adaptive technology all the time. I don't write anything by hand. I use screen readers. I use every possible tech. All of that stuff your students got accommodations for, I still use it, and I use it daily, and it's the only thing that keeps me functional.
Okay. So this is all meaningful work to you, um, but also it's a lot of time.
Yes. Sometimes I feel like teaching is my side gig and union is my job. And that's the reality. I am seconded by the local to do our local work. And then evenings, weekends, I do the other stuff.
Okay. And there's huge benefits of you knowing kind of what's happening at that provincial level for us in Local 417.
Yeah, it definitely changes how we're represented in the OPSU stage, as well as being able to get what our members need more quickly and easily.
And how long have you been doing it? How long have you been with the union and
So I grieved my position in 2006. I was what a lot of faculty members were. I was what's called a 12 and 24. So it means I was sessional for more than 12 months, over a 24-month. And as soon as I acquired my full-time position, I joined the local. I was involved tangentially, but I was not an active member until I had grieved my position. So I started working at the college in 2003. I grieved my position in 2006, and I was a steward by 2006. And then I became the chief steward 2009, 10. I honestly don't remember. It's been a while and been there ever since.
you've seen a lot over that time too?
Yeah.
Have things really changed kind of in your view of what grievances are? I know we've gotten a lot of gains in our collective agreements over time, but
Not really. The same grievances are present. The academic freedom grievances are different. And I'm really seeing a cycling. For a long time, we've gone from this. When I started on the Cornwall campus, there were less than 800 students here in 2003. And so we were teeny tiny, and then we grew to nearly 1,500 at the peak of internationalization. And now we're back down to 1,100, probably crashing down more like 1,000. So I've seen our population go up and down. And with those grievances, I've seen that, or with that shrinking and lowering of population of students, I've seen grievances come and go based on that. A lot on workload. There's always the same sort of issues that come up.
in terms of some of those grievances that have gone to arbitration that are really memorable for you, are there any that kind of really stick out in your mind?
Oh, yeah. So I think two are huge. The Kingston grievance. So Carla Kingston grieved her position and we won that. It changed the provincial landscape that year. Really had a huge impact. We got 6 other full-time jobs on our tri-campuses, and we probably got about 30, maybe more, across the province because of that grievance and that arbitrated decision. It's since been overturned, and we have to fight it again. The cycle continues, but that was a really seminal and important grievance. And then the other one was in 2017, I filed 80-ish grievances in one foul swoop. And with that, it took us a long time, but we had that big hire of 44 3 years ago, and that's an offshoot of all of those grievances.
Okay.
So most people don't know that, but in order to get all of those positions, we withdrew 70% of those grievances. And so we got 44 out of the 80-ish that we had filed.
So, and this is really how kind of changes happen within a unionized environment that people probably don't, or they're not aware of. It's a lot of that policy work, and it's a lot of kind of the background as opposed to one person making a complaint,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the Carla Kingston grievance, if you look at Canley, you can certainly see it being referred to in a lot of arbitrations as well. And that was, can you just give us a little bit of background in terms of kind of what that involved?
Sure. So Carla had been partial load and coordinator for 12 months, more than 12 months, and was never made sessional. She had 2 contracts, an academic contract, teaching contract, and a coordinator contract. When I noticed it, I said, this is a grievance, we need to grieve it. It took a little bit of encouraging and a lot of, support, and we worked together. She worked really, really hard to gather the data and to prove her case. This is not personal. This has nothing to do with you. This is not about your relationships. But it took a good nearly 2 years to win that. And when we didn't just win, we won. Like sometimes you can win and not win, where the member gets what they want, but there wasn't a violation of the collective agreement. This was a full-on win, lock, stock, and barrel, everything. Carla got her position with retro, and we then could make a claim for the other positions. And so we got a lot of jobs that year.
Excellent. And that really is one of the toughest challenges that we have kind of coming from a smaller campus. We've got great relationships in many cases with our associate deans and with the folks that are in the building. And it can be difficult to stand up and say, hey, I have a problem. And a grievance seems like this big, scary thing.
Yeah. And it's not, I don't ever take grievances lightly. This is a very serious legal process. And I don't want to discourage members from ever grieving anything, but it's not something that the local or management or anybody dealing with it takes it lightly. We try to avoid frivolous grievances as much as possible. It is a very serious process, and it has to be done right. There are timelines. There's a lot of legality, a lot of detail, a lot of reasons why. Again, I really like rules. I like playing with rules. I like understanding the rules. I like knowing when I can bend them and when I can't. And so that whole process really sort of tickles something in me, and supporting members to stand up for themselves and advocate for themselves is really super important in my own emotional and moral position. So the grievances, we sometimes we grieve a lot. 80 grievances in a year or one fell swoop. Other times we'll have 3 or 4. But there's a difference between what a personal grievance, a person attached saying you violated, and the union grievances or the policy grievance, which are much more on the collective. And I deal with all of those policies, grievances all the time.
And in terms of working with stewards, people who come forward in the organization, what kind of advice do you have for anybody who's thinking about stepping up?
You don't have to know anything. First thing, everybody thinks, I don't know enough about the collective agreement. It's fine. We will teach you. We will mentor you. If you don't know the answer, ask questions. Someone in the local will know the answer, and you'll see the same questions over and over again after a while, and you'll know the answer. And it's not about getting everything right or being that combative, I'm going to stand up to management. Sometimes it's about relationship building and smoothing things over, or just asking good questions. And all of those skills are needed. So it doesn't matter what your interest is. We have a role on the LEC for absolutely everybody. If you're an introvert and only want to deal with data, heck, I can use you. If you're the extrovert and want to orate and stand up and pontificate, great, we can use you there. If you can write, fabulous. If it doesn't matter. There is a place for you. The only thing we need for you members to understand is the collective mindset. The collective is first. And we are trying to support everyone as best we can. And that is not always easy because we all have competing needs and rights and wants and desires. And so that balancing is where the sort of the rubber hits the road. That's the challenging part. But if you can get your head wrapped around, you are here for the collective good, we'll find a place for you. And it's a fun thing to do.
Awesome. And if I was, well, I am a steward, I'm not going to have to write a grievance myself.
No. Any grievance has to come from Christina DeCara, the president, or I, and we'll write the grievance. We'll support the member and the steward who is involved in the grievance. Any steward who wants to be involved from the step one of filing to the end of arbitration, more than welcome to follow along and watch for as long as they want to watch. They can do or not do, completely up to them, how much space they want to take up. Grievances are really the mandate. Well, in our local, they're the mandate of the lead steward.
Okay. And Gillian, do you want to talk a little bit about what your next few months look like?
So I am so happy. I start sabbatical in less than a month, and I will be off until August. Again, not falling off the face of the planet. I still have provincial responsibilities that I'm not letting go of, but I am working on a postmaster's in counseling psychology so I can relicense just in case. I need to protect my own job. And so relicensing means if I get laid off here, I can go and open a private practice or work in mental health and addictions or whatever. So that's what I'll be working on from Ecuador in January. Any meetings I need to attend to, I will be sitting watching the ocean.
Congratulations on that. It's really interesting to hear you talk about don't know what that future holds as somebody who has a lot of seniority, and yet you're preparing, as we all should be.
I'm most likely going to be okay because I've been with the college since 2003 and full-time since 2006. But that doesn't mean that I will be untouched, and I need an exit strategy. One of my own moral questions is, if I can avoid someone losing their job because I have a job, I will do that. And I know that sounds really sort of, I don't know, crazy noble or I don't know what it sounds like, but it's really because the collective good is more important than the Gillian. And I've had the privilege of working here since 2003, and I have the financial availability. Like, I'm not rich by any stretch, but I could go off and do other work and let a young faculty keep their job and have the career that I had. So that's one of the reasons why I have to have an exit strategy, is if it turns out that I need to start bumping, I'll probably walk. In this case, like, I can't kill myself to support the collective, because in doing that, I'm actually hurting the collective. So the idea is, self-care is hugely important to me, because I need to make sure that I'm available to my members and my family and all the other people that want me in their lives. And so I need to take care of myself, but I also need to see that balance. Like, when can I walk? And I can walk in 2027 because I'll have a full pension.
Mm-hmm. And yet, at the same time, the benefits that you're providing through the work that you're doing, leading arbitrations, important arbitrations like the Kingston decision, are huge as well. So, all right. Is there anything else kind of about you and your union work that we haven't covered that you'd like to mention?
I guess I'm the stuff that I do that's tangential to the local, like in big OPSU, if we want to call it that, is really important to me. So I've been involved with equity. So the Canadian Association of University Teachers, I was the equity rep for Canada, for anybody in the college and university system. And that equity mentality is really important in trying to allow people of huge diverse experience and backgrounds to have really fascinating and important careers.
Know your rights.
Hey everyone, welcome to Know Your Rights. Today, we're going to start with a conversation about an absolute foundation for your job as a full-time faculty member, the workload caps that are set out in Article 11 of our collective agreement. Now, there's 3 key numbers that you need to remember: 44, 18, and 7. Your total workload assigned and attributed by the college cannot exceed 44 hours in any given week without your written approval for overtime. If you're a post-secondary professor, your assigned teaching contact hours cannot exceed 18 hours in any week. Now, there's a crucial change related to your non-teaching time. Your workload attribution includes what we call complementary functions. You'll see that language on the back of your SWIFT. And these are things like routine student assistance and administrative tasks. So previously, you've been guaranteed a minimum of 6 hours for these functions. But we've won a major improvement here in our last contract. So effective January 1st, the minimum allowance for complementary functions is increasing to 7 hours. This means 5 hours are guaranteed for routine out-of-class assistance to individual students, which is up from 4 hours, and you have 2 hours remaining for normal administrative tasks. This change directly addresses the increasing time that you spend supporting students outside the classroom. So know your limits: 44 hours total, 18 teaching contact hours maximum, and soon 7 hours minimum for complementary duties.
And now, another fun episode of Is It a Gripe or a Grievance?
Hey, Gillian. I'm worried about my colleague, Sally. I think she is really struggling. She's a full-time professor with 2 years of experience. She told me she was assigned a workload with 19 teaching contact hours in 1 week. She didn't agree to this in meetings with our associate dean, and she didn't notice it until she was preparing her learning plans. She is really worried. She has young kids at home, too. She doesn't want to rock the boat because she is afraid for her job in this climate, so she's just not saying anything to anyone but me. Can the union help?
Yes and no. Once the semester is started, there's very little we can do. That is, depending on what her department, that is a violation of the collective agreement, so we could grieve it, and we would grieve it. If she's in trades, then it's not a violation because they can teach up to 20 hours. So if Sally is in regular post-secondary, then we could grieve it. It's really challenging once the semester is started, but if the person is willing to meet with a steward, we could grieve it, or at least threaten to grieve it, and potentially have one of the courses removed to try to reduce the number of contact hours so that we're not killing her in the process. But that really needs to be picked up as soon as possible, and a steward needs to be met with.
You've been listening to CAAT Tales, stories that matter to faculty and beyond. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Visit slcfaculty.ca and stay connected with us on social media.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies, positions, or statements of OPSU CEFPO, St. Lawrence College, or any affiliated organizations. This podcast is provided for informational and educational purposes only. While every effort is made to ensure accuracy, SLC Faculty Local 417 makes no representations or warranties of any kind, express or implied, about the completeness, reliability, or suitability of the information shared. Any reliance placed on such information is strictly at the listener's own risk. Music and sound effects used in this podcast are licensed or royalty-free. We respect copyright law and encourage listeners to do the same.